Has anybody here ever been a competitive swimmer? Thank you. Thank you for being here. We have the number. Okay, perfect. So you know that in any swim meet that's held, whether it is in the Sioux City, Iowa Swim League or the Pacific 12 Swim Championships or the Olympics, that there are 4 strokes used in swim competitions. And those 4 strokes are?
Freestyle, breast, butterfly, and bench.
Okay, great. Very nicely done. That was very nicely done. Okay. And so the fastest of those strokes is the freestyle, okay? I don't want to run into the podium here because you generally don't want to swim when there's a podium. Okay. Swimming 101. I'm working that one there. Okay, good. So, okay, good. So the fastest is the freestyle. The second fastest is? Excellent. The second fastest is? Careful. I've just been DQ'd because my arms got out of kind of sync, but that's okay. So the second fastest is butterfly. There's reason to believe for 18 to 20 meters that a good butterflyer is as fast or faster than freestyle, but this is an exhausting stroke, so you can't keep it up. The third fastest stroke is? Well, it only depends if the swimmers aren't fast. No. No. Okay, it's the backstroke. You're right, okay. And the slowest stroke known to human beings is, in competition, is the breaststroke. It's an awesome stroke, okay? It's the favorite stroke of 90-year-old German women in the Baltic Sea. And no, I love this stroke. Because it allows you to actually see what's going on in front of you. You don't have to put your head in the water. You can if you want to, but you'd be faster, but you don't have to. It's got a kick that's designed after a frog, slower than a dolphin, okay? Other strokes, kicks designed after a dolphin. So frog's not the fastest, a little bit of a funky kick. Slowest stroke, okay? That's okay. They're all wonderful strokes. You can get a medal in any of these strokes. Does that work? Okay. I think it was time for my next race, but anyway. Okay, so the reason I ask about this and my fascination with it is, in the 1800s there was only one place in the world in which they cared about competitive swimming, and that was Northern Europe. Whenever it was warm enough, the water was maybe, I don't know, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, they would hold a swim meet. And the leading swimmers from throughout Northern Europe would come to swim. They'd come from the British Isles, they'd come from France and Holland and Belgium, they'd come from Germany, the Nordic countries, and they'd all come to swim. The only problem or interesting fact about swimming in Northern Europe in the 1800s was the only swimming stroke that Northern Europeans had figured out how to swim was the breaststroke, the slowest stroke known to human beings. So let me get you in the mood for a swim meet, because I'd like to share with you a story that gets at the heart of why we don't innovate as much as we could. So I brought really kind of weird childlike goggles, but we'll put these on. They should work. The water doesn't seem that bad here, okay? So it's 1844, a swim meet's about to be held in London, England, a big swim meet. Leading swimmers and all of their fans and coaches have come. You don't like my goggles? Come on. Am I having... Okay, we're having issues here? Okay, good. What hair? Okay, but anyway. Okay, fine. Gosh. They always interrupt you when the meet's about to start. You always got to slow people down. Okay, good. Swim meet is held in London, England. All the leading swimmers are there. And just as the meet's about to start, 2 visitors come to the meet and ask if they can participate. They've come from South America, actually. And they've never been to a swim meet before, never competed, but having heard there was a swim meet, thought it might be fun to try. The hosts, delighted to see people from a far-off land, invited them and said that would be awesome, assuming, of course, that they would show them the coolest way to swim. The visitors asked how the swim meet happened. The host said it's really very simple. We'll line up on a bank here. At the appropriate time, a referee will say, "Swimmers, take your mark." Swimmers will get down. I'll show you in a second. And then, once everybody's ready, we'll fire a gun, and the race will begin. Swimmers will go out to the mark out in the lake. They'll swing around it, then come back. The first to touch the bank will be the winner. The visitors thought that sounded cool except for the gun part. They were assured the gun would be fired up in the air and that it was a blank. The meet began. Swimmers, take your mark. The regular people who lived there and knew how to be in a swim meet got down. The guests checked them out and decided to do the same thing. The gun went up in the air. Swimmers were off. They dove into the water as fast as they could. Within a few moments, something weird was happening. It was noticed by the hosts. Because these people, oddly enough, were swimming a very different stroke. They were swimming the freestyle, the fastest stroke known to human beings. After a little while, everybody on the banks looked and said, well, that's really weird. Don't worry, they'll tire out. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen anybody do in water. And then at the halfway point, they noticed they were really far ahead. Don't worry, they'll tire out now. The halfway point is always the toughest point for the swimmers. And then as they came to the finish line, they were way ahead of everybody else. At the end of the race, they asked if they could swim again. The host said, that's okay if you want to take a break. You might be tired. You can wait for a few races. We'll have a number of races. They said, that's okay. We're actually not that tired at all. And they got into the next race. They won every single race they entered. At the end of the meet, one might have imagined that the hosts, after giving them their medals and congratulating them, might have asked them to stay and teach them how to swim this really cool and super fast stroke. But instead, they wished them well, sent them on their way, and then huddled to figure out how they could swim the breaststroke faster. So that next time when these people came from a far-off land, they would kick their butts. This went on for 29 years. For the next 29 years, Northern Europeans made a concerted effort to figure out how to swim the breaststroke faster, the slowest stroke known to human beings. Then in 1873, a young man named John Trudgeon became the swim coach of a leading London club. He had never seen anyone swim the freestyle, but having heard from an older member of the club about the time that these visitors came from a far-off land, swimming a different stroke, he said to himself and to everyone around him, if there's a faster way to swim, I would like to learn it. What was wrong with him? What was he smoking? And so he found his way to South America, found people who swam this funky stroke, stayed there until they taught him how to do it, drew detailed pictures of everything they did, pictures that are now in a museum in London, and then came back and taught his young charges how to swim the freestyle. In the next meet they entered, they won every single race. Now, Northern Europeans, having seen other Northern Europeans swimming the freestyle, decided this was cool, and the world of swimming and swim strokes was changed forever. The most fascinating thing about the history of swimming is that we now know in every corner of the world except Northern Europe, in South America, in Africa, in South Asia, in East Asia, in Australia and the islands of the Pacific, people have been swimming a variation of the freestyle for 10,000 years. That the only place they cared about competitive swimming was the only place they had no idea how to swim fast. That's awesome, don't you think? And yet they were so doggedly determined that their way was the best way to swim. Which leads me to the following question. How many of you, in the work that you do every day, are swimming your own variation of the breaststroke? How many of you are kind of doing things the way you've done it for a while and are kind of content to do it even as the world around you starts to swim faster? How many of you have simply decided that what I do is the best way to do things and I'd rather not change? Well, it's not just you, it's actually almost everybody. Literally, almost all of us in any industry we're in get really comfortable swimming the way we like to swim. And we tweak it and get a bit better at it, but the thought of doing something very different is really hard for us. And I'd like to challenge you to think that your ability to change swim strokes or to add a new stroke is fundamental to your success in your industry or any industry. And that the real challenge we all face is being open to the possibility that we can always swim faster. But we have to believe that other people's ideas are not a threat, but an opportunity.